obviously got road game on Saturday, and TCU is playing so well. Coach is doing a great job with them. They're averaging just in their, when you start looking at their numbers and with the injuries they've had since their injuries, they're averaging 65 points a game. They're shooting, in 4 games, they've shot 102 threes out of 208 shots. So half their shots are from 3, and they're making them. I mean, when you start going down the list, 41, 35, 70, I mean, that's their top 3 scores, and that's what they're shooting from 3-point range. 70%. Like, that's a big number. And so that kind of jumps off at me pretty quick when you start talking about trying to guard and defend them. And that's in their last, 4 games. If you go to their last 5, it's even worse. 42, 47, 35, 61, 37. I mean, it's pretty impressive what he's doing with those kids and how hard they play. Their execution is at a really high level. And so we're going to have to really play well when we go in there. And it's the way it always is in a Big 12. But that, for us, we know we have little room for error. Our margin for error is really small. Just trying to, again, continue to get people healthy, create some chemistry. Go back and look at the film, the K-State film. We watched it yesterday quite a bit with our team. I don't know. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from K-State because I think they're really good, and I think they played really well, and their chemistry, Jeff's done an unbelievable job with them, losing Aoka and how they've continued to ascend, from 10 to 2 with Aoka out. But I didn't think we played that well at time, in big stretches, and thought offensively we really struggled. It's the chemistry and the tempo that you want to play with. You go to the Oklahoma game and you're offensively, you're off the chart, but you can't guard the dead. And then you go to, the next 3 games, and, it's just, it's a bit frustrating for me because we can't seem to put it all together and have one of those games where you hold people in the 50s like we have the last 3 games since the Oklahoma game, and yet still average 83 points a game, which we're doing on the season, 73 in conference. And so, the biggest thing for me right now, y'all, we got to stop turning the ball over. We had 18 the other day. We were 9 for 18 in the third quarter, 50%, had a big third quarter. Then we go to the fourth quarter and we're 3 for 9. We get half as many shots, and our execution is terrible. And we're turning the ball over out top, and they're laying it in on the other end and taking a 15-point game and cutting it to 7. And so we've got to stop turning the ball over, but we got to stop turning the ball over where we can't defend it. And then execution-wise, we got to be better, because this is one of the better teams that I've had that can shoot the ball. And yet we're not getting to shoot it because we're too busy throwing it to the wrong jersey. And so we've got to be better there. I got to do a better job. Yesterday in practice, we had a real focal point with it, and we'll have it again today and tomorrow, and really for the rest of the year. We've got to get that addressed and fixed. So again, we're talking about right now with our team, winning plays. From the time you wake up in the morning, what decisions are you making to make winning plays? Because if you're not making winning plays, you're making losing decisions. It's either a 1 or a 0, y'all. That's the way we've always talked about it in our program. It's a 1 or a 0. It's not, almost, kinda. No, it's either a 1 or a 0. And we've got to make winning plays, and we've got to stop making losing plays. And So that's our focal point. We had a pretty good workout yesterday. We spent a lot of time on film yesterday. I'll be honest, probably too much. I probably stayed with them too long. So we'll get on the court today and have more time on the floor.
Thanks, Coach. Let's start with Bob.
So then to that point, was it pretty easy to bring him back down to earth?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they have a pretty good understanding. I mean, Aaliyah, as you saw in media the other day after the game, she was right on. You enjoy the game, you enjoy the win, but then you got to wake up the next day and realize that's done. If all we do is walk around and pat ourselves on the back, it won't be long and we'll get popped like Saturday. And so you got to flush it and move on, and so for us, I'm hopeful our kids understand that. I talk to them about it every day. Just understanding, hey, we know what's coming. We know we get everybody's best shot, and we've got to continue. I think for us, really, Bob, I think we can get so much better. And I think that's what's driving me right now is I want to see us get so much better. As good as we are right now and as much perseverance as we've shown and resilience that we've shown, I think we can really get a lot better. And that's my job as a coach to try to get it out of them.
So you mentioned the third quarter to the fourth quarter. When you see that, is it complacency? Is it like what are you identifying as some of the reasons it's not a full 4 quarter? I mean, I know there are ups and downs to games, but just in a general sense that it's not a full 4 quarters the way you want it.
I think where you watch the film, we just had some lapses in judgment, whether it's a bad shot that's getting blocked and then it's a layup the other way, or a turnover at the top of the key that you can't defend. Post-entry passes, not being, not doing a good job reading there, post not sealing, and holding off the defense so that then it becomes a turnover. I just think it's a combination of a lot of things for us. And, Booker responded so well in the second half the other night, goes 5 for 10. Hindsight's always 20/20, y'all. I'm not sure in that fourth quarter I wouldn't redo it and I'd get her 10 more shots, because at least if that ball's in her hands, I know it ain't going to get, if I'm telling her we're running stuff for her, she's going to get it's hard to keep her from her spot. Hard to keep her from getting to where she wants to get to, and you sure can't get to her when she jumps up to shoot it. So I'm not sure that a better play wouldn't have been to empty the playbook with her instead of trying to do some other stuff that we were trying to do.
Harry?
So Schaefer, after the Kansas State game, Aaliyah Moore made a comment. She said it's personal. And then she clarified it in post-game that says, for the team, it's personal. It wasn't to any individual opponent or player, but it was for the team. Winning is personal. That's not something you coach. You coach skill, you coach determination, you coach winning. But making it personal comes from their core. Where does that come from the team that you see?
Well, they know it's personal for me. 5:15 in the morning practice was personal. I didn't feel like, I think we do, the University of Texas, my staff, I think we're all in and we're invested, and we want our kids to be that too. And, they get that because they know this is, what you do is not supposed to be who you are. Unfortunately for me, they know me as the coach. Basketball is who I am. I've been that way pretty much my whole life. It's cost me time with my own family, my own children, my wife. But that's my commitment and my investment in these young kids. I'm lucky I've got a wonderful wife that understands that. because she's in with them, she's in there with me too. She knows, and we're all in it for these kids. So they know that that's how I am. And for them, I think they do have a personal investment in this as well. They want to, they understand how when you're involved emotionally in something, it just means more. And we've all been dealt this hand that we have, and we're continuing to battle every day with it. And we're kind of starting to see a little bit of light with Gaston getting healthy. Getting Madison back really helps. And so now I'm just, like I said today in a staff meeting, I'm worried about where the next snake is that's trying to bite me. I'm worried about my next step. I don't want, with this team, I mean, it just seems like every time we finally get where we can get our head above water a little bit and breathe, something else jumps up and grabs us. And but I think I'll tell you the great indicator of that comment was how Amo and Deanna Gaston went around to the crowd when the game was over, thanking them, applauding them, jumping up and down. That's an emotional, like, they don't have to do that, but they are appreciative. Those kids are thankful. They have gratitude. But that's also a personal trait, right? And so I think that's says volumes for our kids, volumes for their parents, how they've been raised, but also says a little bit about what our culture is all about. It is personal. We know we're getting everybody's best shot. You got people mouthing off in press conferences and disrespecting you and saying all kinds of things. So it's fine. It's all part of it. We don't act that way. My kids don't act that way. They better not. I'm not on here when they're on here, but I don't think they're that way. Nobody's told me they're that way. So we just have a real understanding. And again, we are personally invested in what we're doing. Our players are, my staff is, because it's important.
So her comment really indicates that not only Aaliyah, but the team they're playing for something greater than themselves. That's what I'm taking from this.
Yeah, I hope so. That's what we talk about a lot, play for the name on the front of your jersey, not the one on the back. And I think one of the things about this team that makes it so special is that we don't have a selfish kid out there that thinks they got to get theirs. Like, there's not one player on this roster that I think is worried about their numbers. Shea Holly don't care. She just wants to win. Shaylee Gonzalez has said it. I just want to win, coach. I'm living the dream. I mean, you can't help but appreciate kids like that. And in today's world where you got all these people filling kids with things in their head, and you got to do this, and why don't your coach run this for you, and you need more shots, and this team doesn't have that. So, I mean, again, that's what gives us a chance, y'all, quite frankly. I mean, we're doing things way different than some of my previous teams, but as long as we can continue to be successful, we've just got to find a different way to win.
Thank you.
Andy, go ahead.
This is going to be a terrible segue because I'm going to ask you to talk about an individual after talking about the team. But obviously, Madison won her National Freshman of the Week award, which is pretty impressive considering what Juju did during the same time frame. But you've talked about it before. Why do you think Madison is the best freshman in the country, considering what Juju's doing, what Hannah's doing, what Adi's doing at Iowa State? Why does Madison stand out in that group?
Just to me, because of everything that we're asking her to do. I know what the stats are on some of those other kids, and no disrespect, those are all really good players, but those kids started in that position. They had a chance to learn that position in non-conference. You think Madison Booker got thrown into it right when conference started. And it's hard enough for a freshman to learn one position and then all of a sudden be thrown into another position. Madison Booker started in one position, got thrown into the position where you not only have to know your position, but you got to know everybody else's. And you're responsible for everybody else and where they're supposed to be. And so I think Madison, she's done it in every big game we've played in, and she continues to do it. I see her every day in practice. I know how hardworking the kid is, how humble the kid is. She wants to be great. She spends extra time with my staff watching film. She's just really an incredible young lady, not to mention a heck of a basketball player. But I just, again, from a skill set position and from having to, run a team, she didn't get a 2-month practice run through some 3-name directional schools, Danny. Her first, she got thrown in the fire against a defending conference champion, and then Baylor was her second game. So not a whole lot she had 4 days. She played against Jackson State, SWAC champions, on the 27th, and had 2 days prep to get ready for Baylor on the 30th. So, but again, not only that piece, but just the skill set piece. I think she's really, she's so special and is doing a heck of a job for us, obviously.
Corey?
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to shed light on someone else that's stepping up on your team. Losing Rory, of course, was a big loss, but also not having Deanna. And we're talking about an all Big 12 selection. She's been finding her way back. And Amo has been averaging 15 and 10 the last 3 games. And so what is her development and her new role? And also, what does it mean to you to see her step up into this role with Deanna coming back from injury?
Well, I've said it, early on, like we lost first team all Big 12 before the season ever started in Gaston, 14.6 rebounds a game. And, we really had to rely on Amina early, and she was great. Amina was outstanding. Aaliyah Moore has really come on of late. She's shooting 52% in conference play. 68 from the free throw line. She's getting 7 rebounds a game and 13 and a half points. So, that's kind of the trade-off right there. She's almost where Gaston was. But Deanna's coming on. She's finally gotten through a full practice without having to sit out with her ankle. Our trainer, Cheyenne's been doing a really good job doing some needling with her in the training room, getting her, and she feels like that's really helped her. I'm not going to talk about it. It's not really, we don't need to talk about it, but I don't think people understand the magnitude of her injury with that ankle. And, it was a very significant and serious injury. And most football guys don't play a season with it. And so, getting her back is such a big thing for us. That's a veteran kid, and getting her back and being effective. She was 2 for 3 at Baylor. She was 4 for 4 the other night. But the other thing about the other night, she played 22 minutes. That's the most she's played all year. And so if we can get her back and get her effective where she's helping us, scoring wise in an efficient manner, and then not hurting us on defense, I think that's really big for us. So you're exactly right. Amo's been a big part of our success, no question about it. but getting Gaston back will really give us some much needed depth at 5 and 4. And we desperately need her to get back and get to where she's effective.
And a quick follow-up, Coach. After the Cincinnati game, you had a conversation with Aaliyah. And you told me to wait. It wasn't the time, right? So I'm asking now, is it a good time to ask what that conversation was? I got to do my job as a journalist, follow up. So,
yeah. The conversation really, it had more to do with things happening here on campus. And, just wanting her to know there's so many people here that are here to support our student athletes and our people here on campus. And, sometimes things are outside the control of our administration and certainly us as coaches, but not to, wanted her to know that when things like this happen, like we don't like it either, but we're going to, I promise you, we've got an unbelievable president and an athletic director, and they're here to make sure that if there's anything else that maybe we can do to combat some of this stuff, they're going to do it. And they're here for our kids. They're here for the 52,000 that are on this campus. And so that's kind of a vague answer to your question. You can probably figure out the rest. But I love Aaliyah Moore and sometimes y'all, we talk about things that happen in our world and society. And as y'all know, living here in Texas, we have a lot going on with down on the border and everything else. And, we make decisions on how we're going to vote in certain ways with some of these issues. And you know what? Sometimes we need to make decisions on how we vote with some of these other things that are decided. We'll leave it at that.
Jonathan?
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, Shaylee's kind of struggled the last couple of games. What do you think it's going to take to kind of get her going again? Do you think it's a confidence thing, or what do you think is kind of the problem there?
I'm not worried about Shaylee Gonzalez. I had a visit with her a couple mornings ago, and her and Shay both, like, those are the last two kids on my team I'm worried about. Like, I think it's real easy to fix their ills, and we've addressed it. And, I'm on to the next problem, which ain't them. So I just think, sometimes you go through stretches during the season. People are going to game plan for you. I think they're seeing that right now. And so, I think that's the challenge. Y'all heard me talk about the consistency piece, and that's the challenge every student athlete, every big time player has, is understanding that when you're a focal point of a team, you've got to keep your edge. If they take this away from you, then you're going to go to this. And if they take this from you, you're going to go to this. I think what's going on with those two kids, they continue to help us win. And that's probably the biggest compliment you can give anybody, is when maybe in your eyes you think they're struggling. In my eyes, I think certain teams are taking certain things from us. They just continue to help us win. They don't have a bad night shooting and a bad night defense. They're really good defensively. They're playing their heart out on that end. They're rebounding the ball. We've asked Shay Holly to go from being a third option defensively on the perimeter a year ago to being she's our number one, on ball defender on the perimeter this year. And she's answered that bell with flying colors. So, I mean, again, I continue to have so much respect and admiration for her and Shaylee and these kids, because they're all being asked to do some stuff that they weren't asked to be being done a month and a half ago. and they're having to respond, and they are responding. And so again, we got a long way to go. Lots can happen between now and March, but they've really done a great job to date. I mean, you think about everything we've been through, y'all know it. Here we are on February 8th, and these kids, their team is ranked 7th in the country, and they're within an earshot of first place in the Big 12. But again, if we sit around and pat ourselves on the back, we won't be talking about this in a week. We'll be talking about what could have been, and we don't want that to happen.
Go two more, Bob, then Terry.
I just had a couple of questions about the presidential election in November.
Not necessarily the presidential, but
no, I actually did want to hit on Schaefer for a minute because, against K-State, she played all 40 minutes and didn't score a point. Against Baylor, she played all 40 minutes and scored 2 points. She's basically played all 40 minutes every conference game. Since conference started, you've kind of put her in that role. But 6 assists against K-State, 5 steals against Baylor. How difficult it
0 turnovers.
What's that?
And she's had 0 turnovers in back-to-back games for the first time in her career. Check with Danny, but for the first time in her career, back-to-back 0 turnovers.
But how maybe with her it wasn't difficult, but what's the challenge in getting someone to buy into all of that role? Because she scored 22 against OU. It's not like she can't do that. It's just different nights. She's going to be asked to do different things offensively and like you said, number one defender. So what were some of the challenges with her to get her to buy all the way into that?
None. Like, that kid don't care. Like, she just wants to win. Like, she just wants to be on the floor. She just wants to play. She's all about the team. She's the glue to our team. She has been since day one. She continues to be the glue to our team. And, I was listening to Barkley last night, and he was talking about on a team, what gives a team an edge? And his answer was, it really isn't skill set. It has more to do with how hard you play, the energy that you bring. That's what's really more important than anything else. Skill set, anything else. It's that energy and how hard you play. That's what, and so they asked him, well, who made you, who was your team? And he said, Dan Marley. That's Shay Holly. Like, her energy, that's the energy kid, right? That's the Energizer Bunny. And so for us, but the answer to your question is, it was easy. I mean, there's never been a difficult day one to coach her. I mean, she'll do whatever you ask her to do, and that's what you really can respect and admire in a young person. When you talk about buy-in, that's the picture that's in the dictionary.
Terry?
Coach, so for the next 7 games, 5 of those games are going to be televised on ESPN, which is reflective of the upward trend towards women's sports. You had 8,300 people, 8,325, I think, come to the Moody Center to watch Texas play. Do you ever get statistics on how many people watch on ESPN or other stations? And do you ever have a thought, okay, do we ever have 1 million people watching us on TV, and or would you have a number that you would like to achieve, like you want to fill the Moody Center? I mean, 2 million people watching Texas women's basketball? I don't know. Curious your thoughts.
Well, I'll even say this, Terry. I mean, if I didn't realize we were on ESPN 5 of the next 7, but by the way, they've got 350 something other teams to pick from.
Right.
And the fact that they've picked the University of Texas women's basketball says a lot about, our kids and our program. And so, as I've said many times, the free advertisement that you give a university, you just can't put a dollar number on it when you're on national TV, on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. You never know who's going to be flipping through the channels and they go, man, that's an exciting place. What's going on in there? And then they see it's a women's basketball game, and the next thing you know, they either are fixing to go to college, or they might have a kid that's fixing to get out of high school and wants to go to college, and they go, hey, that place looks pretty exciting. You might want to think about going to school there. Pull them up. Do they have your degree? I mean, you never know who's paying attention. And so, I certainly know across the country, some of the big games that have been on national TV and what those numbers have been. And again, I think our sport right now is at an all-time high for interest. But I think, again, it's the kids that we have playing, their skill set, their personalities, how we play the game, style of plays. I think all that is part of what makes women's college basketball so interesting right now. And I think you have to give our kids credit, but then it goes way back. You have to give administrators credit for investing in our sport, because it wasn't that long ago, y'all, where there was no investment. Back in the day, y'all, there were 3 teams invested in this state. Stephen F. Austin, Texas Tech, and the University of Texas. There were probably a handful more across the country: La Tech, Tennessee, Stanford, Georgia, Auburn. Those were the teams year in, year out that were getting, to the Final Four. And I don't want to miss anybody in that group. Wendy Larry when she was at Old Dominion, C. Vivian when she was at Iowa, and then went. And so, but I mean, I just named most of the people that were invested back in the 90s, and so I think what you've seen is you see the return on an investment. And I just, again, I think our kids, when you see Aaliyah Moore and Deanna Gaston running around an arena after the game the other night, it was more a show of gratitude and appreciation to the 8,300 that were in the building than anything. And we are appreciative. I'm appreciative to my administration, our university. I appreciate how hard our kids work and what they're doing in a game, in their practices and in games. And again, I'm appreciative, though, also, as somebody that's been in this game business for 39 years, I'm appreciative to where our game has grown. And, as I've told y'all, I've driven the 15-passenger van. I've gotten out in Thibodaux, Louisiana 9 hours later, coached a game, stopped at McDonald's on the way home, fed the kids, got back in the van, drove home, hit a deer, got out at 4:30 in the morning, and dropped everybody off, and went to the field house and washed uniforms. I've done it. So there's nobody on this planet, there's no coach that appreciates more what's happened in this game and has seen more than probably me. And so I have a real appreciation for where we are today, where I am as a coach, where my players are. That's probably why it's so personal for me, y'all, just to be honest. That's why it's so personal for me, because I know how far it's come, and I know what our kids get today, and know, 25 years ago, hey, let's just go back. We don't have to go back that far. I know what the game was like back then. So, I have a real appreciation for where we are. And, you know, it's really, it's pretty cool, you know, to be able to see the transformation that's really taken place. But I think today, to answer your question, you got to give kids credit for how they play the game. As John Wooden said, it's a game, it's a more pure game played below the rim. And that's what we have, you know.
Go for it.
Aaliyah, I think one thing that's kind of been interesting to me with you the last couple of games is it's a little out of left field, but on your wristband with your athletic tape, you've kind of written some, I guess, goals or aspirational things the last couple of games, whether it's dog or I think you had double on there for the K-State game. I'm kind of wondering, how do you come up with those? Who helps you out with those? And are you constantly looking at your wrists throughout the game?
Yeah, honestly, it was just I was talking to my mom one day about the power of like manifesting things and, you know, affirmations, writing things down. And when you see something and you say something every day, it's more likely to happen. Especially with the new year, we were coming up with goals for the year. And I told her, I was like, I think I want to start writing my goals like on my wrist, just to have like, you know, during the game to remind myself of if I had a bad play to forget about it, you know, we have a bigger goal ahead. So lately, the biggest thing has been dog, and that's been kind of a team thing. But Sarah actually is the one that writes on my wrist every game, and she's the one that came up with the dog saying to put on there because she says I'm a dog. And when she said it, I was like, you know what, it's perfect. You know, every game I need to go out there and be as tough as possible, and every team needs to be you could say like afraid of me in a way because I'm a dog. So I put that on there for that reason. And then double because that's just something that I want to average for the year. And I've had it on there for the past, I think, 2 or 3 games, and I finally got a double versus K-State. So it must work. It finally happened. And then I also put on there AFM, which means Aaliyah more. And I got that from Coach Lovato. And she's the one that gave me that nickname, just to remember, always to remember who I am, and that when I go out there, no one can stop me.
I think the F stands for funny, right? I think you can say the word. No
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Aaliyah Funnymore. Yep.
As far as the dog part, obviously Sarah's called it to you. Madison said it in a press conference the other day about you and Taylor. I think you had it on an Instagram post about your team recently. Just what is that dog mentality with this Texas team?
Yeah, I think toughness is something that Coach Schaefer has said that we've struggled with in the past. And so I told the team we need to take it upon ourselves to, no matter what happens, he should never question our toughness out of everything. And so the dog mentality is really just having that grit, that toughness to go out every day and work hard in practice and then in the games. It's being mentally and physically a dog. Like no team's going to out tough us at the end of the day.
Bob, go ahead.
Oh, you're on mute.
I said I forgot my question. I'm trying to come up with different Fs that you can use there. How quickly did y'all come back down to earth after last week? What did it take? Was it a film session? Was it a team chat? What did it take to come back down to earth?
Are you talking about after Baylor and K-State?
After K-State, yeah, just after beating Baylor and K-State.
I mean, honestly, that night after we beat K-State and that night after we beat Baylor, because every night anything can happen, as we've seen in the Big. Can win, can lose. That's great. Like pat ourselves on the back, but we have plenty of games ahead of us, and then we have a big road after that, Big 12 tournament, and then the NCAA tournament. So it's really cool. I mean, we love the wins. Of course, you don't want to be on the losing side, but at the end of the day, we have so much more to prove, and also we have a standard here, and if we don't meet that standard, then you know we need to keep pushing and figure it out. And so I feel like because our standard is so high, it's like, okay, great, we won, on to the next. Like we need to keep stacking wins.
Jonathan.
Hi, Aaliyah. Do you feel like you guys are playing your best basketball right now?
I would not say our best. I think that it's some of the best defense we played all year. All around basketball, no. I think we still have, as you could tell, versus K-State at the end of the game, too many mental lapses to where we almost gave up the game and they almost came back, which we cannot have, especially leading into the tournament. because we'll play way different teams and teams that are better. So we just have to be prepared. But I do think that we played some of our best defense so far this season, which is something we've been struggling with. Like when we played OU, it was not great team defense at all. And so I'm really proud of our team that we fixed that. But I think all around basketball, the ceiling is so high.
Thank you.
Danny, you got another one?
Yeah, Aaliyah, how is your ankle? And coming off, when you got hurt against Baylor, I mean, you came back in the third quarter, didn't sit again. You obviously played a lot against Kansas State. How are you kind of gutting through it? Because Vic didn't make it seem like this is a minor issue for you.
Yeah, I would say it was a little difficult because we played Baylor, didn't really have an off day, and played K-State. But at the end of the day, I knew my team needed me out there. And so, hey, pain is gain. And eventually it will go away. No, but we, coach, make sure I took care of it. We had 2 off days, which was really nice. So I actually feel a lot better now. But, injuries happen, little tweaks happen. At the end of the day, like I said, dog, man, we got that dog mentality.